I think I'm live. I'm live according to the computer. So let's hope that's true. Ugh. I just want to make sure everything's in the right spot. Cool. Hi, Sarah. Hold on one second. I'm recording. You are. Why did you wait until after I started? Why did you do this? It was just Sorry about that. Families, right? Can't live with them, can't leave them behind forever, unfortunately. So, hi, Sarah, and hopefully hi, other people that are going to make it. Just a quick reminder that I'm still getting used to the webcam not being right, like on top of the computer. So if I'm looking over here, it's because I'm looking at the screen. And that's because we have a chat function, so you guys, we can chat as we're going, just like in Facebook. But so far, this stream is a little bit better, a little bit more predictable. So I hope everybody finds their way over with the link. I have it up on Patreon and in the group here. Cool beans. Okay. Well, I'm going to dive in a little bit, Sarah. You're the only one here, but that's okay. So tonight what we're going to talk about is writing magic, and that's basically just using writing to make magic, or working with creative writing to make magic, or working with magic to make creative writing. So you can use magic to clear emotional blocks, to help you boost creativity, to help you find the right answers, or to help with research if it's that kind of book. Oh, cool. Thanks, Sarah. I'm glad it looks good because, man, has that been frustrating. It was really like bumming me out that I couldn't figure out how to fix that. Okay. It was really bugging me that I couldn't figure out why it couldn't just work. Drove me crazy. So we're going to talk a little bit about Books of Shadows, or journaling for spiritual purposes. We're also going to talk a little about, what else did I have here? We're going to talk about creating sigils, and we're going to talk about light magic for dark times. Technology is fun. You know what? When technology works, technology is fun. But when it doesn't work, it's like the exact opposite of fun. It's horrifying and tragic. I made tea. I'm burning myself on it. It's a good time for tea. The snow fell. I'm wearing like ponchos already. I'm done. It's like, like I'm accepting the inevitable now. It's winter. It's time for this. My clothing that I often refer to as my garbage bag clothing. So we're also going to talk a little bit about light magic for dark times. So Lisa has an entire chapter, chapter 7, which I believe starts on page 128, all about writing magic. And this is really great because Lisa is a writer, not just of, nonfiction books, but she's a writer of a lot of poetry. And she is also the founder of Luna magazine. She does write for that as well. Yeah, tea and chocolate. You know what? I had a pack of turtles earlier. I bought a 4-pack and brought him to a friend's house, and I was like, "Hey, do you want one?" He's like, "Sure." I'm like, "Cool." So I get 3. Oh, that's fine. No shame. Turtles are really like luxurious. I didn't know my little local bodega even sold them. The packages are dusty. Like it looks like no one's bought them in a while. So I've just been buying them all. Tasty. That's fun. Yeah, see, tea, hot chocolate. I've got instrumental music playing this time because last time I had the phone I just like to have music playing. I don't like it to be like totally quiet in here. It creeps me out, even if you guys can't hear it. So I had Amy Winehouse playing on my phone right here because I'm obsessed and I've been listening to her nonstop. And that night I got an email from YouTube telling me like, whoa, UMC says that you've been using their music. You're not in trouble, but we just got to check it out. And they even knew which songs it was, like in which specific live version of a song I had listened to. That's crazy. So this time I've got, random instrumental with nature sounds. Yeah. And I've got a bunny. And he's hopping all over. I was hoping we'd have more people 7 minutes in, but that's okay. That's okay. So writing is an interesting topic when it comes to witchcraft, because I feel like there's kind of this idea that we're all book nerds. And even though so far that's been true, I'm sure not every witch is a book nerd who's incredibly gifted at writing. It just probably doesn't happen 100% of the time. But there's still a lot of writing elements and book elements in witchcraft, like the Book of Shadows or the spell book, the big grimoire. It's such a huge deal in witchcraft. I know that for years, I've really wanted one of those big, dusty, old, kooky books of shadows like you see in Practical Magic, like you see in movies, like you see in, Hocus Pocus, where the leather on the outside was actually made from a hangman's skin. Wild. Super cool. I've always wanted something kind of really arcane and huge like that. And I finally got over the disappointment of never having that when I realized that's not really my style. Like, it's my style to find that and to love it and like find it at a store somewhere already filled out. But to actually create this really old fashioned book from the start for me is kind of out of character. I love old fashioned things. It's so wild. No one here would call me like a modern woman because I'm obsessed with the 70s and 90s, not the 80s, unless you count punk, which a lot of people don't. So I tend to like things that are older, but when it comes to spirituality, I really like to move forward and get into the modern age. So the big dusty tome, unfortunately, is not my style. So I've got other styles of books of shadows here we can talk about. Yeah, it's just, you always see it. And you don't just see it in movies and things. If you started with witchcraft by studying Wicca, you saw pictures of Wiccan ceremonies. There were lots of pictures. And especially in older books, there were lots of pictures because in the 60s and 70s, it was very popular and there were lots of rituals and covens and meetings. So there were lots of pictures. And they all had these nice, big, huge books. And, they had the whole shebang. And I always felt like, man, if I don't have that, I'm not a real witch. What am I going to pass down through the family line? But that's unusual because I don't even want kids. So I just, you just see it in the pictures, the movies, everything, all fancy and beautiful and it's a very high bar to hold yourself to, which is why I'm going to show you guys some of the things that I use as a book of shadows, because I have multiple things that just like pile together. In addition to all of the, magic and spell books that I have and purchase and things. Yeah, it was like disappointing for a long time because I love old books. I really, really love old books, but I'll leave old books to the past, I guess. So we're going to talk a little bit about our books of shadows or our books of spells or how we collect things like that, because there's lots of modern ways of doing stuff like this. I wanted to start with something kind of fun that I thought of. So I don't know if it was our group or if it was a different group I'm in. Someone was talking about for the month of November, they're doing, make sure I don't screw it up. I can type it, but saying it is weird. NaNoWriMo. So National Novel Writing Month. And I love this idea. I've always wished I could write a novel. I'm not gonna, especially not in a month. Fiction novel, I don't think I could ever write it without getting totally carried away. But I was thinking of some ways that you could kind of boost that experience. So if you're writing something witchy, or if you're just writing in general and you want to keep going, I've been thinking of some stuff that you can use to boost that for yourself. So first of all, there are awesome spells in here for things like, and now I lost the book. Writing your own incantation, journaling practices. There's another ritual for breaking a creative block. So getting over a writer's block. Diary practices, sigil magic. So you can use all of that kind of stuff to boost up your writing. So before you sit down to write, you can create a sigil for the story or for this book, and you can keep adding to it and use that on all of your pages and in all of your writing, and keep it in your mind and meditate on it, that kind of thing. Yeah. If I wrote a book, it would just be about witches who run a witch store, and and like, as much as we all love those, there's a million of those, and I don't think I write fast enough to make even like cheesy dime store witch novels. I don't think I could bang those out. I take things kind of seriously. I read that still. Yeah, so would I. Honestly, I have these moments sometimes where I get flashbacks to stories that I've read that featured witches going to a witch shop to buy books. Like it's I'm so obsessed with that in stories. I would just that's just what it would be. I'm obsessed with witch stories. It's really bizarre. I'm not a capitalist, but I'm obsessed with witch stories. Yeah, and I often have flashbacks to kind of like the mental images that I made during some of those book readings. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish I could visit that store, but it's not real. Yeah, cute witch store. Ah, yes. More people showing up. This is wonderful. We're mostly just talking about books and how much we love books, and books of shadows, and kind of the beautiful mythical idea of these big fancy tomes, and what real books of shadows are actually like. Wonderful. Okay, so it says there's 3 people. I only see 2 of you, so I must be the third one. Yay. Yay, books. Yes. So yeah, if anyone's doing any writing, there are lots of different ideas in here. I love the idea of sigils, and I had this really cool idea, and I'm not writing a book, so it like bums me out that I have this and I'm not using it. So I came up with this fun idea, and I know I didn't come up with the idea, but I was inspired with this idea. If you are writing something kind of witchy and you need some help like picking elements of your story, like narrowing down things like character traits or locations or different themes, using any sort of divination, but tarot cards, to pick out some of that stuff. So if you use your court cards and you choose cards for different characters, you can, flesh out some of the elements of their personality using the tarot card, and you also have the intuitive part with it. Lenormand cards are a different kind of deck. This is the one that the Lunar Nomad Oracle. So Lenormand cards are a little bit different, and they're actually made to be laid out in a pattern to tell you a story. So using the Lenormand cards, and you get things like, there's cards that say man and woman, familiar, bear, garden, rider, woman, house, ring, child. So it's a lot of everyday kind of symbols that all mean slightly different things, but it's made to be laid out and create a story. So when you do a reading with it, you have to read how all of the cards kind of play out and, bounce off of each other. So I thought that would be an even cooler idea for when you're writing, to help you, I don't know, to help you get over any sort of slumps. If you're like, okay, I have this great idea and I need to get these characters from point A to point B, but I have no idea how to get them there or what's going to happen in between. I haven't figured that out. I just need them to get from here to here. Use your cards to kind of lay out a storyboard almost, and put your cards together and see what you come up with. And this can be something you do during meditation, or just while you're sitting there writing, get all centered and start laying some cards down. Yeah, writer's block is wild because it's not like it's completely gone from your brain. You still have all those ideas in there. You're not able to get at them right now for whatever reason. So having something like this, I find that is kind of a tangible thing, and it gets your energy pumping. I find that really helps. Yeah, so I thought that was a really fun idea. And I actually did find, I'm going to link to some stuff in the group after, but I actually did find some tarot spreads online that are for choosing characters and stories, or in like RPG games. But so they're for choosing characters and doing stuff with your writing. So I'm going to post that stuff in the group after, because that's pretty fun. And that is kind of a fun way to do any sort of magic, to talk about people or ideas like that, to flesh out kind of full ideas. That was a super fun idea. So if you guys are doing that, if you guys are writing and you use your tarot cards or anything, I'd love to hear about it, because I want to know how well that goes. Last year I wanted to write a book during NaNoWriMo. I was like, yeah, I can do it. I can write a book. Nah, man, I'm tired. I get tired in November. But I think I'm going to try that with this anyways. I think I'm going to try to make a little short story and kind of see how it goes. That was just a fun idea I had. And I figured it was thematic. Yeah, absolutely. And you could use the same kind of spreads and draws to do all of that, to flesh out different elements of your characters, to choose between, two options, to choose between different tools, to choose between different paths, whatever. I mean, I feel like, and I'm not I don't play Dungeons and Dragons. I like it to be very like clean and laid out for me. I just am weird. I'm so weird. I love imagination, but I don't want to use it. So you can use that to flesh out different elements of your character. I honestly think you could combine tarot reading and Dungeons and Dragons kind of in general. Like, I feel like that's just not that weird or that crazy, because it's all kind of the same. It can be very fantasy oriented. I think you could combine them completely. Like, you could make a tarot reading that's also a literal Dungeons and Dragons game. Just use the cards to pick your twists and turns, things like that. But you need to be on the fly for that, real on the fly. But I think you could do it. So in Light Magic for Dark Times, are you guys reading Light Magic for Dark Times right now? Are you an empath? Yes, I'm loving it. Oh, me too. I really like it. This book's going to get a really good review next week. I'm very much in love with it, and I've been bouncing around all the way through it. But this chapter on writing magic, I really, really liked. So chapter 7 on page 128 is where it starts. And like I was saying earlier, it's really nice to see a chapter on writing magic from someone who does this very poetic and artistic kind of writing. That's just really beautiful. And I feel like I love taking advice. I love taking advice from this kind of writer. Her writing is also very just like compassionate and loving. So I'm really enjoying the book. Journaling practices for taking risks are really, really cool. In general, she has a lot of different journaling practices. And this is something that I always think I need to start a journal. I need to start writing. It's just, anything, just writing. Sometimes I just got to get stuff out. But I never really seem to do it. I never seem to actually get up and do it. And I would love, especially, to have a really nice spiritual journal where every day I just write down whatever spiritual things I'm doing, my intuitive feelings, my tarot readings, any of that stuff that I do, any of those feelings that I get. And I actually think I'm going to start right now because I'm buying it in here. I love how she talks about writing and about the power in the written word. And it's not just the words themselves, but it's the whole action. You know, you have it in your brain and then you manifest it and bring it into the physical world. You put your actual energy into it, and you can get real wild and put your blood or some magical ink into it. And there's just so much you can do with it and so many different ways that it can help. Writing is, you know, very therapeutic. It's very, it can be very energizing. It helps you get stuff off your chest, and it can be really like calming, like almost like mindfulness, like coloring almost. Yeah. Oh, that's a good way to say it. It's encouraging, frank, and accessible. I really like that. And I totally agree. It's very encouraging. This book is kind of making me feel like I can do anything. Just anything in the world, I can do it. And like I don't even need to use the spell, I just need to read it. And I feel all pumped up, like I can get out there and I can do it. And so I've got to start some of these. I've got to start doing some of these. And I'm going to start journaling. And I think I'm going to start using my tarot cards every day. I did that in October and I loved it. And I think I'm going to start kind of writing it out. And I don't know. I feel like sometimes I'm not doing as much spiritual stuff as I want to. I'm not as connected to my spirituality as I want to be because it just isn't tangible right now. Whatever I'm doing with it isn't very tangible. And it's hard for me to kind of grasp at, and I don't see it all the time. I don't see the things that I do in any sort of list. I feel like I need to start writing stuff down. Where was one of the ones on here that I really liked? Practices for writing magical poetry. This one's on page 136. There have long been poems about witchcraft and magical practices. In the 16th century, author Nicholas Breton wrote, "A witch and not a witch, and yet a witch indeed. But there's something more beautiful than poems about magic, poems as magic." Yay. What can a spell accomplish? What can a poem create? The intersection is in their intention. It's the combining of parts to make something altogether new, an emotion, a reaction, an action, or a decision. Spells and poems are unmeasurable outside of time and the rules of language and perception. And I just love that. I've never been one for kind of rhyming spells, but I'm starting to think, and I still don't love rhyming so much. But I'm starting to think actually writing spells out instead of sitting there and doing like a stream of consciousness type talking thing that I often end up doing. I think there's something really powerful about that. Do you guys write down your spells, your spellcraft? Do you guys write down how your spells work out, or keep a diary of how any of your spirituality is manifesting in your regular life? Oh, that's very cool. A reflective journal entry afterwards is really great. And someone explained that to me one time. They're like, oh, it's just, it's like the scientific method. You observe and you write down your results. Oh, sometimes I get lazy. That's going to be what's on my tombstone. Paige Vanderbeck. Sometimes she got lazy, and it'll be true. Well, yeah, I feel like that's an awesome idea. I've done that before, but it's not something I do regularly, and I'm rethinking my whole life plan. I love and hate writing. It's really bizarre. But I love the idea of chronicling it, keeping track of it. I think sometimes I perform spells and then, I put it out there and I dispose of all of the, leftover ingredients or the garbage or whatever. And the spell will just leave my mind. And sometimes it'll pop back up in a month or a couple of months or a couple of weeks, whatever. But sometimes I just lose track of a spell that I've performed. And then sometimes I think back like, hey, I wonder if that ever came to pass. And I have no records. No records. Magic takes such a long time to develop. I need to start writing stuff down. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, great minds think alike, Sarah. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm going to start adding writing as part of my magical process. I already do I do quite a bit of writing online, obviously. And I do some writing. I do like to write stuff down. I do have books of shadows. But something I really like as far as writing, I like with my hands and I like drawing and stuff too. I like to combine writing and drawing. And this is creating sigils. And this is one of my faves. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like, keep a dream journal. And I'm like, yeah, that's a brilliant idea. And then I never do it. Never. And lately I've been dreaming a lot. Like I didn't dream for kind of a while. I thought it was a side effect of medication. But the last 2 weeks, I've had dreams every single night. And I could not tell you what they were, but they were incredibly lifelike and realistic. So much so that I woke up after and I was like, was that real? Did that just happen? And I wasn't sure. So I should start doing that too. But creating sigils is super fun. So this is a way that you can write out magic without just writing out a sentence of magic and just kind of leaving it there. This is kind of a fun way to use it. So a sigil is basically a magic symbol that you create for yourself. And you can create a sigil that just stands for you or your power or like a big goal, or you can use individual ones for individual spell work. So you can create a sigil that means, I have enough money to support my lifestyle. And then you create a sigil from this because that's your idea. So to start with creating a sigil, you basically need to just have that. You need to have that intent. And it can be incredibly simple or it can be very complex, and it's totally up to you. So I think it would be fun to create a sigil. And be warned that mine are very boxy. They're the most Capricorn looking sigils I've ever, made up in my life. So to start with your sigil, you need to narrow down your intention. You need to narrow down what your goal is with your magical spell. I need a magic spell goal. I need to go for my magic spell. I believe she mentioned sigils in here too, right at the end of the writing chapter. Yeah. Like this. This is an example of a sigil. It's a self-created magical symbol. Cool. So I'll pick something fun and random. Whatever. I have enough money. What did I say? I have enough money to support fun. I have enough money to support my lifestyle. And this is something that you can really narrow down. You can take a little bit more seriously. So you can sit there and you can really work on it. You can really think about your intention, really boil it down. And you can even write out your intention kind of repeatedly as a way to kind of build energy. Don't do it too much. You're going to feel like you're punishing yourself, but it's a repetitive and rhythmic motion that you can basically do while meditating. If you write a sentence so many times, your muscles will just take over for you and you'll just be building and building and building. So that's what I usually do when I create a sigil. I really get into the mood and I really write or draw it out, and I take my time with that. I forgot my instructions. I am the weirdest person in the world. I have half of my instructions. I'm so ridiculous. Hold on. Good sweet Lord. Everything's still good here? Okay. My computer made a noise. Sorry. I was afraid. Wow. I completely lost a file. Cool beans. Sorry about that. I'm absurd. And I printed this out and I just apparently completely forgot half of it in another part of the room. Awesome. So, losing instructions and winging it is half of my practice. Me too, friend. Me too. It's, gosh. And we're going to talk about Books of Shadows in a second, and you'll see why I have this problem. Why I'm always like, it's here somewhere, because it always is here somewhere in some form. So you write down your intention. You write it down in a plain sentence. You want to write it down in a present tense, not like I am going to win the lottery. It's more like I have a winning lottery ticket, something like that. After that, you take your sentence and you remove all of your vowels. So A, E, I, O, U. You can take the Y's out if, that's your prerogative. So, so I got some stuff to take out. So I have H, V, N, G, H, M. And you come up with some gibberish like this. So you remove the vowels from your sentence, and you end up with this kind of odd looking line of seemingly random letters, which is real fun. And from there, you go through and you take out all of the doubles that you have. So, you only want to have one H. You narrow it down. You only want to have one V, that kind of thing. So H. What we got here? H, V, N, G, M, Y, T, S, P. I ended up with actually quite a few. So you take out all of your repeating letters there, and again, you end up with this kind of silly looking jumble. And normally you should end up with way fewer letters than that. And I usually do. It's really funny that this time I didn't. So, of course, I have to show you now how to glue these all together. So what you do is you take the overall shape of each one of your letters and you combine them together. And you can start off kind of simple. So H, V, N, And in making that, you know, a lot of them overlap anyways. And that is an incredibly boring sigil, and I'm aware. So this is kind of like a basic shape. And from there, you expand on it. You have a little bit of fun with it. You let that creative energy flow through you, and you keep mixing and matching and blending the letters together until you have a symbol that really solidifies this meaning for you. And, you know, while you're doing that, you want to repeat this back to yourself like it's a mantra. And after you have a symbol that's actually really nice looking, and I don't know how I did this, but a lot of my sigils are kind of boring like this. I like geometric shapes when I'm drawing, I guess. Kind of bizarre. But yeah, once you have a shape that is to your liking, that's when you got to charge your sigil. So to charge your sigil, you're either going to draw it on a piece of paper and throw it into the fire. You're going to hold it and imbue it with energy. You're going to put it up someplace where you can see it all the time, but eventually forget about it. So it's just kind of there in your brain. You're kind of subconsciously taking note of your sigil. Yeah. So my sigil looks like a house. Hey, mine too. So many letters are square. I always try to like get really weird with it and have a really fun time. But most of the time I end up just like, I just want to make sure they all fit together real nice. I just want my sigil to be pretty. It's turning into a square again. And you can reuse some letters. This is the worst. Yeah. At least it looks cool. Like, look, they look like snakes. Yeah. I see sigils as a magical logo. That's awesome. That is exactly what it's like. It's like you're taking an entire idea or identity or an entire, you know, magical premise, and you're putting it down to one symbol. And every time you see it, you're going to think of that. So you want to hear, you know, the jingle for your magical logo in your head when you look at your sigil that looks like a house or snakes, or maybe something actually pretty because you're a better artist. You know what? I've never tried to do sigils with paint, and I bet if I had paint and I was just having a real good time going with the flow, I'd come up with something better. I never even thought about that. But if you have better ideas, you can use it with paint. You can create sigils that are permanent or that you use all the time, a personal sigil that is about you. You can create sigils for individual moments. You can create sigils to write or draw on your body to use as a permanent or non-permanent tattoo. If it's permanent, make sure you want that. Make sure you want that. Because, I don't know, man. I'm not big into logos getting tattooed. And sometimes you're going to lose interest. Says the girl with silly tattoos everywhere. So that is a sigil, and that's kind of a way to use writing magic. Obviously, if you write a little bit longer and more, you can create kind of a larger conglomerate symbol, or it can be a much more basic. Often I end up with 3 letters or 4 letters, something really slight, and it's usually the letter H is almost always in there. So in one example, I ended up with that, and you don't have to be artistic. And you can see that you can create a sigil. You can have a little bit of fun with it if you want. But if you don't, that's okay. Anyone can create a sigil. It doesn't have to be beautiful. It mostly just has to be functional, and it has to mean something to you. It's actually a really fun way to do magic. I use sigils a lot when I'm carving a candle. So I'll actually I'll come up with an intention for my spell, and I'll write it out, and I'll do all the furious writing, and then I will my little one sentence, and then I will make a sigil from that, and I will carve it into a candle and stick the piece of paper underneath so the wax encompasses it, because I like my spells to be candly and waxy. I have a type. So that's how I like to use them. I love to carve them into candles. And I kind of like the idea of putting them on your body. I've never had one that I felt like putting on there. Actually, in Light Magic for Dark Times, she has a really nice little ritual. And you're not writing you can write a sigil, but it's more, where is it here? An embodiment writing spell for creating your dream on page 138. Setting your intention into reality, or at least giving your intention a fighting chance, is an integral part of magical work. One of the ways I like to manifest my intentions is through writing. In the present tense, what it is. I got lost. Okay. Yeah. One of the ways I like to manifest my intentions is through writing in the present tense what it is that I want to create on my body. I like to use non-toxic ink to do this. That's a good tip. Oh, bye. Yeah, I will be putting the link up in the group, and I think we've only got 20 minutes and a half hour left, so you're not missing a lot. Bye. Thank you. Thank you for coming. So she says, with the spell, you'll literally embody the change or vision you wish to see actually actualized. So she has a bunch of these awesome little mantras. I'm going to take one here. And she tells you to take a shower or do some sort of ritual cleansing, your face, your hands, maybe the part of your body that you're going to write on. I have a Sharpie here. I don't know if it's non-toxic or not. Probably isn't, but it's for breast cancer awareness. So I'm hoping it's okay. Hoping it's okay. And she has literally like the entire sentence. I like this one. So, come up with a nice intention. And write it somewhere on your body. It doesn't have to be incredibly public. It can be somewhere hidden. So that says, I am worthy, which was in the book. And to put your energy into it when you reapply it every day. So, when you get out of the shower and you're sitting there and you're air drying, sit there and write your sentence or your sigil on your body, right in the corner in your knee or something like that. And throughout the day, anytime you need that energy, and if you can see it, or you can touch the spot and you can feel that energy that you're constantly working into that spot. Just like with writing, you're constantly applying energy to this area, and it just builds and builds and builds. Yeah. Man, this book is seriously this is it's like in one of my top 3. I'm finding so many spells in here that I actually want to do, and I haven't done any in quite a while, so I'm pretty excited about that. Pretty excited. And it's nice and creative. I like that. I like very creative magic. I think creativity is just a really fun way of building energy, and you don't always know what's going to come out. You're being creative, and you might go in there thinking, I'm going to paint a forest, and you end up painting something totally wild and unreal that you've never seen before, that you couldn't imagine. And where did this come from? It's great. It's a great way to tap into parts of your brain you might not know are there. So I want to talk a little bit about books of shadows and grimoires. These are great. And Sarah and I were talking earlier about, the idea of the witch with this big old fancy tome, and usually in the brown leathers and things glued in it, and etc. And it's something that everyone kind of wants, but also a lot of us don't want to actually make it. And sometimes it's laziness, but sometimes it's just that we realize that isn't necessarily useful in our life or for our current situation. Now, if you have a big, beautiful tome, that's awesome. I'd love to see pictures if you're comfortable sharing. But if not, that's okay. I like digital collections, digital books of shadows. I use Pinterest a lot. I recently reorganized all of it, and I've got a lot of different boards with different things. I've got ones for spells. I've got ones for crystals. I've got ones for herbs. I essentially am able to lay it all out, and it's got, nice big full color photographs. I can pull it up on my phone. and I can find things whenever I need them. And for tarot spreads, that's just fantastic. And then for tarot readings that I do, I like to put them into a digital file that I can check on my phone or later that I can save. So it's saved into a notes folder, or I use Evernote sometimes and it'll be saved there in the app. So there's nothing wrong with using digital books of shadows. You can always try to go the cute notebook route. I know I did. And some of it's still like intact. I need better glue on the herb magic page. Some of it's still intact. But it was the closest I got to Big Spooky Tome. And it's more fun scrapbook, which is definitely more my style. But I also have this monster, this nice big binder. And I have been putting every single class note I make or everything I print out about witchcraft in this binder since 2015, since the year I worked at the metaphysical store. So it's full of awesome stuff. Some like class projects I did in college, all of that kind of shit. So I have a big ass binder with printouts from the internet, with business cards from witches that I've seen at whatever gatherings and things like that. It's got notes made like not by me from when I worked at the store that other people made. It's got recipes and spells that I printed out. And it's basically where I go for all of this kind of info. Like I had, sigils, and I have all this in here. So a lot of people's Book of Shadows looks like this. It looks like a big ass binder with computer printers and a million tabs and things that don't look very inherently witchy. And that's totally okay. I love my binder. And speaking of sigils, I found some ones that I love. Yeah, it's from Everyday Sigils, I think, on Tumblr. But they create these really cool, very artistic sigils that I loved. It's so useful. I kind of hated, the big ugly binder, but it's not really about how that stuff looks. It's about what you collect in it. So a lot of the spells and stuff I have in here, they're just printed on regular printer paper. The font isn't beautiful. It's just black and white. But I don't know if I'd be able to find that again. I don't know if I'm going to need that. And where did I find this? It could be on some random website a million years ago. So having the big old binder with everything at my fingertips, and I also have extras of things in here. So if someone is like, oh, I just got a magical cat, do you have any tips for what to do with that? I can just give them this little sheet I have on a blessed cat collar spell. I've got tons of, I've got elemental handouts. I've got business cards for different witchy businesses. So if someone's like, where do I get this? I know exactly where. So I love my binder and my digital sources. They really are my favorite part, my favorite Book of Shadows. And they're the least pretty version. But it's also the one that I use the most, the one that I go to the most, because that's what really matters. All the stuff in this binder, I've actually used. These spells that I wrote a million years ago, most of them I never even tried. So they just looked good in there. So the binder is very much more a practical Book of Shadows. It really does. It's like I as I was looking at that, I just thought, why don't I just carry these in my purse? I offer lots of advice about magical cats, I guess. It's a topic. I taught a class one time, and I just figured it would be useful to have some extra ones to hand out. It's very on brand. You never know when someone will need it. Never know. I also used to hand it out if I sold a magical cat collar. I'd stick it in the little envelope. So super cute. Super cute little writing. I think that was all I had. And I wanted to ask you guys about writing magic. Aside from your Book of Shadows, do you guys keep a journal, and not just a spiritual journal for spells and things like that? Do you guys keep a journal, or do you have a regular writing or journal practice where you sit down and you write every day or every other day or something like that? I'm laughing at that. It is very on brand to have it ready to go. Witch cat handles. Oh, they make me laugh. Me too. I totally used LiveJournal, and for a really long time, I was still using Tumblr until maybe like 2.5 years ago. I just kind of lost interest. But yeah, it was nice to have a journal that I wrote in every single day, even though a lot of the stuff that I wrote was, oh my God, this guy was such a dick. That guy was such a dick. But even though that's what I wrote down, I remember that it always made me feel better. And I love having old ones that I can go and look through. There really was. There were lots of witches and pagans on LiveJournal. Lots and lots and lots. Lots of groups and communities and lots of individuals that you could follow. I found tons of other witches and pagans on there. Oh, LiveJournal. MySpace too. But most of them were also very, very goth. MySpace was very goth. It had a big goth vibe. Didn't always work out for me. But yeah, journaling is, she keeps mentioning it in here, and I know it's because she's a writer, and so she, when you're a writer, you have to. It's like a compulsion. And she keeps talking about different journal practices, and I'm really thinking that this is something I got to do. I got to find myself a good, sturdy kind of notebook here. But I can't use it as an excuse just to buy a notebook, which I have too many of. But this idea of a daily journal practice where I'm keeping track of my life, and I'm paying attention to my life, and I'm able to look back and see where I've been and what I've done, and see what my goals really are, read between the lines, psychoanalyze myself just a little bit. That just sounds so helpful. I wish someone else could do it for me. I wish I had like an autobiographer who just follows me and writes it down, and then later I can just read it. That's my dream. You can never have too many. Too many. I used to have too many, but then I used them all. Straight up. I have a few, but I don't have any that are blank. I did good. I mean, a lot of them have like 3 pages written in the front, but whatever. They're not blank. Witch law. It is witch law. Okay, so that was what I had for writing magic, and I'm going to be posting more stuff like this in the group. I already posted a really nice little ritual to do if you get a new Book of Shadows, if you decide that you want to start a grimoire or a Book of Shadows. And I will be posting a much nicer handout that kind of explains sigils, or maybe I'll just make a separate video that kind of goes through the steps again. Or maybe I'll use prettier sigils. I'll make a really nice one, maybe. But I will be putting all that up in the group. And I will be talking a little bit more about writing magic as we go through, because next week we're going to be talking about shadow work. So we're going to be talking even a little bit more about journaling and about looking inward and kind of self-analyzation, stuff like that. So, Sarah, I believe you are the only one left, but you were the first one here. So you were the first one in my heart. Thank you so much for showing up tonight. I'm really happy that the stream is working and we're able to connect. I'm still a little I'm kind of jazzed, so I'm talking real and I keep looking at myself like I'm just I'm really excited. Ah, Sherilyn, you're the other person. It doesn't count me. It's you. Oh, that's great. I hope you're having a really good night at work. That's awesome. Yes, this was really fun. So next week is probably going to be a little bit more serious, but hopefully still kind of fun. So thank you so much for showing up, both of you, especially when you're at work. Thank you for getting paid while I'm sitting here talking to you. That makes me feel like awesome. Yeah. Get you all pumped up, get that paycheck. So I hope you guys all have a really great night. And if you guys do have any writing that you're doing for the month, or if you guys create your own sigils, or you work on a Book of Shadows and you want to share it in the group, I would love, 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 love to see it. I'd love to see pictures or hear stories or what have you. If you write magical poems, I'd love to hear it. I'd love all of it. So have a good night, guys. See you next week.